Good stuff. Okay, so it's my name is Neil McGee, and I'm on the board of the Leicester Business Voice. Thank you for joining us. Really very interesting. Tricky to get manufacturers out of their place of work to come and tell us about what's going on. We've already had initial chats, and there are some really interesting subjects coming up. A bit of housekeeping, if you don't mind. You as participant viewers will be muted by default, and you should be able to see that come up, which means that any questions that you do have, we'd like you to write in a box called chat. So write your questions as they come into your mind, and we'll pick those up at the end and make sure that Richard, Sandra, and Kamal are available to give them some thought and response. I should also mention to you that this session is being recorded, just so we don't forget the keywords that are being said there. And lastly, I'm going to hand over now to the chair for the day, also a board member of Leicester Business Voice, Graham Watts. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, Neil. If I could have the first slide up, please. With the key facts. Yeah, thank you. The statistics on screen show you some key figures from the recent Make UK PwC report on manufacturing. Whilst you digest those, I'll share with you that a dictionary definition of manufacturing is defined as the processing of raw materials or parts into finished goods through the use of tools, human labour, machinery, or chemical processing. On a more simple level, manufacturing could be described as using design, expertise, skill, ingenuity, and various other means to make a bunch of raw materials, and make them into something that is worth more than the sum of its parts. But to me and the rest of the LBV board, it's more than that. It's the heart of the British economy. Manufacturers buy parts and raw materials from other businesses in their supply chain, and they buy services from others. They employ a workforce that spends money in the local economy. They manufacture goods that meet our needs. They generate wealth and are massive contributors to the economy and society. You could say that without manufacturing, we are nothing. Can I have the next slide, please? More stats for you. But it's not easy. If you pardon the pun, there are many moving parts. There are a lot of things to get right, and conversely, a lot of things that can go wrong. In Leicestershire, we have a great heritage in manufacturing, and we are blessed with manufacturers in many different sectors in and around the industrial estates of Leicester and the county towns. We are fortunate today to be joined by the owners of 3 great Leicester businesses who have kindly agreed to share with us how they have been impacted with all that has been thrown at them over the last year or so, how they have adapted, and how they see the future panning out. So without further ado, I would like to invite our panelists to briefly introduce themselves and their businesses. So I'll go left to right on the screen. Kamal, over to you.
Hi everybody. I'm obviously Kamal Duty, FBI Europe. We manufacture sauces and condiments and then repack them into portion controls, things like tomato ketchup and mayonnaise, and packaging like this. I think you may have seen the brand Harrison's. So we actually make the tomato ketchup and then we repack it into these sort of sachets. We repack things into dip pots like this, and at the same time the sauces go into the bottles. So this is so basically, we actually manufacture the actual sauce, we actually do the actual packaging, and then we sell to the hospitality and the leisure industry.
Fantastic. Thank you, Kamal, and we look forward to hearing your thoughts on the topics later on. Sandra, you're next.
Okay, I'm Sandra. I'm one of the co-founders, managing director. You don't want all my other titles as well in there because they're usually pretty rude. of DPI UK. We're a manufacturer of soft signage, bespoke soft signage that actually predominantly goes into retail, sign, display, exhibition, actually anywhere that you want to create an environment or an impact or messaging to actually support the brands. Yeah, we've been going a number of years. It's quite interesting hearing Grain's definition of manufacturing. We bring in raw materials, we build them into something that is actually more than the value of those sums of whatever that part is. That's us.
Perfect, thank you. And last and certainly not least, Richard. Richard, you're on mute, sorry.
Sorry about that. Good afternoon. Richard Brucciani from PAL International. We are specialist manufacturers of hygiene products, focusing on infection prevention. We're based in Lutterworth, employing around 100 Leicestershire folk. We work in 4 market areas: UK, Europe, Middle East, and Asia Pacific, not the Americas. We're not selling there. We have 2 key sectors. For PAL, it's the food industry, food manufacturing, processing, also hospitality. And we have that's the PAL brand, and the MediPAL brand is healthcare and pharmaceutical. Besides Lutterworth, which covers UK and Europe, we've got sales and warehousing operations in Dubai, and a sales company in Malaysia, and we've recently actually closed our Hong Kong office. Our main products are chemical wipes, together with related products, and we work with a large range of accreditations in the areas of biological, biocidal products and medical devices, etc. Lutterworth is our HQ with admin, marketing, development activities, and our labs together with manufacturing and warehousing. And last year we had a turnover of 25 million, and 15 million of that was exported. That's PAL.
Superb. Thank you, Richard. Thank you all 3. So you can see we've got 3 excellent business owners operating in different sectors, and all of which have had different experiences over many years. So first of all, can I ask for the first poll question for the audience, please? There will be we have 3 poll questions coming up. We'd be very interested to hear your views on these topics. So the first one, please click to let us know which of the 2 big headlines, or a possible third, has had the largest impact on your business over the past year or so. Once we have the results in, I shall be asking the panelists for their opinions. Wow. So Brexit has been a breeze, clearly. Thank you for sharing those opinions. Sandra, can I ask you first then, how do the audience responses compare to your own experience over the past 12 months?
The flippant side of me wants to say what day of the week will depend on what my answer will be. Currently, obviously, it is the lockdowns have been the biggest impact, because obviously we deal with one of our biggest clients is the retail sector. So with all the closures, as much as we have been manufacturing on a lower level, let's say, we have been extremely impacted. March, our order book just literally fell off the face of the earth. And we had some very squeaky bottom times of, oh my God, how are we going to get through this? And what do? You just dig deep, don't you? And you just find new ways, which is what we did. We diversified some products, and we actually managed to support some of the industries that had to be in work to work safely with COVID screens. It's not our main market. It wasn't what we do on a normal day, but it was just using what we'd got in factory to actually deliver a product that was fit for purpose for that moment. But it's still having an impact on us, obviously, all the lockdowns, the decision makers, you know, nobody wants to spend money currently within the industries we're working in because nobody knows when they're going to be open next. And that's still an impact to us, but yeah, we're getting through that.
Thanks, Sandra. Kamal, would you like to go next? Brexit or COVID or another?
Well, ours is both, but more heavily on Brexit. I mean, I'm a bit surprised in the poll that the Brexit hasn't affected people. I mean, like Sandra's, our business just fell off the cliff in March because we're attached to the hospitality. All the restaurants and the hotels and everything were closed. And you know, I've got about 50 people working for me, and during the March period, we furloughed 42. So you can see how the business just fell off the cliff. But as time progressed, you know, the people back from we started re-employing the people back from furlough, and the opening comes through. And then came August, the Eat Out scheme, which was a big help for us because everybody was eating outside and enjoying the food outside. And I thought, whoa, we're going to level off now. Yeah, come October, November. Come September, October, we're going to level off. And then somebody switched the lights off in November. And we're back to square one. December came, and we had this big impact on Brexit. Now, the problem with Brexit was the fact that we didn't know where it's going to go. Now, irrespective of what people, I was surprised on the poll, but people weren't concerned about the delays and the price ramifications what we're going to get if we had a no deal. So therefore, we were stocking up, right, for the worst to happen, and we stocked up. A deal came through, and then what's happened? The lockdown came through again. So we've not been able to destock the stocking that we've done. So this is a process that we're going through at the moment. We're destocking slowly, but not at the rate I expected to do. So in my case, I've been impacted on both sides of the matter.
Thank you, Kamal. Richard, what's been the larger impacts on PAL? Oh, sorry, mute again.
Mute again.
Yes, I'm a quiet person. It's a whirlpool, really. We make infection prevention products, so we have been flat out, frankly, in terms of production. Having said that, we've learned a lot. I mean, working from home we've had to do, which is a novel activity and something that we've learned a lot from. We've created manufacturing bubbles to allow segregation, so that's safer. We've had to work in a hygiene environment. That's not a problem for us. We do that anyway. We have had to communicate much better with our customers simply because of the almost rationing of our products to various customers, both here and overseas. We had a major issue in terms of putting a large piece of additional manufacturing capacity into the factory during the middle of the lockdown. The problem was all the machinery was made in Turkey, and we had that difficulty of actually getting people backwards, well, from there to here, so that it could be done. But the reality is that we have actually, I think, responded well enough in terms of satisfying our customers, we hope. Brexit is a slightly different thing in terms of the fact that there were frequent warnings from government, few details from government, so we prepared well for an invisible process. We set up a European company in Ireland. We've restructured the supply chain to have more stock over in Europe rather than here. We're experienced in January quite a lot of delays. We had 9 containers stuck in a port. One of the biggest problems is actually the Europeans don't know, the importers themselves, our customers don't know what to do because they haven't got the right documentation. France is different from Germany. Our Spanish distributor was stuck because Spain decided that he had to have a new license as a pharmacy dealer, which he didn't have. We think that this will carry on till about April, and then things will sort it themselves out.
Thank you, Richard. That's three very different experiences, all challenging, and you know, congratulations for dealing with them the way you have. Can I ask for the second poll question, please? So again, one for the audience. Please let us know, in response to supply chain disruption, have you been able to source suitable alternatives more locally? There's been a lot of talk in the press about disruption to supply chains, difficulties with manufacturers sourced overseas. There's been so much globalization over many years, and far more goods traversing the world, imported and exported. And of course, that all became rather problematic. So we would be very interested to know if you've been able to resource and help your local your local business colleagues. So that's I take that personally. I think that's great. That's positive news. So thank you for sharing that. And again, can I go to the panel? And I'll start with you this time, Kamal. You have mentioned about stocking up ahead of Brexit, or you probably had to do that on each Brexit deadline, which was subsequently missed. So that must have been fun and games. But again, how does that reflect your experience?
Well, on the short to medium term, the answer to your question is no. We can't just switch off our supply base. You know, don't forget, we've been trading with Europe for over 40 years, and we can't just say goodbye, get a pair of scissors and cut them off. They are our friends, and they do supply, you know, very good materials to us. So it's very, very difficult. We just can't switch them off. And during the Brexit, during the Brexit run-up, it was them who were helping us out when we were saying, look, you need to do this, you need to do that, make sure it's all ready, because we were expecting disruption at the docks. And you know, there still are disruption at the docks, irrespective of what the media are saying. Because even I was just speaking to a customer yesterday, a multinational customer yesterday, and they have got lorries still stuck at the docks, and that is of yesterday. So irrespective of what the media are saying, there is problems, you know, at Dover or whatever. But in the short to medium term, there's no way we can just switch our suppliers off. And you've built a relationship up with them. So you know, we're working together to get this, to get through this.
Yeah, no, that's good to hear. It's the solutions are rarely simple, and I fully appreciate that continuity of supply and loyalty are really important, and not you don't chop and change at the drop of a hat, do you? So Richard, can I ask you next, because I know you've got some really interesting experience from a change in attitude for the local governments in the Middle East.
Yes, I mean, in terms of actually getting raw materials, sadly, there's very few, apart from the sort of additional products such as packaging, which we can get locally. Most of our raw materials, frankly, are imported. And we had taken steps during the course of last year to actually overstock in raw materials, guessing that there may well be supply chain issues. So we have been okay in terms of that situation. It's the reverse in a way that you've alluded to, where we are exporting, and we are finding that increasingly countries are more interested in sourcing locally. So there are now increasingly a number of governments, because it's often the public sector, where they want to encourage local manufacture. So therefore, what they will do is say that they will give preference to local manufacture rather than imported product. This is changing the way that we're looking at things, and we see the future. actually is in some form of partnership with local companies on the ground in those countries, and that will inevitably be some form of manufacturing partnership. And I think if this trend continues, it will probably reflect in this country as well in terms of more manufacturing possibly being created here, because we should do local manufacturing. And the driver of that, of course, has got to be the government. I mean, the government's got to say, public procurement, we will give priority to British products. Now, whether they will do that is another question. But certainly one of the things that's evident, if you go on the internet and want to buy a consumer product in Europe at the moment and have it shipped here, you'll find a lot of European companies aren't actually sending stuff to the UK. It's strange in a world of globalization that we're actually potentially fragmenting all this.
Yes, and indeed, it's a reversal of trends, as I said, over many years, where globalization has been the way forward, and now more and more it's getting more localization and a bit more of a protectionist policy, where governments are looking after their own economies. And Sandra, what are your views on this subject, please?
I'm going to say for the last 18 months, we have been trying to get some projects across the line to actually support more locally as part of our own sustainability. Just relooking at our whole supply chain. We have a really good relationship with our suppliers in Europe, but their goods all come from the Far East. And because a lot of all of ours is off aluminium, the tariffs or the tax hit Europe on the 1st of November. It had been the 9% tax, 48% tax hit them, which has actually put our product, our net price in supply price, up by some astronomical amounts. And that just came in overnight. Even though it had been talked about for a long time, that's what Europe did to their own people, because it actually goes off what Richard was saying, that Europe are trying to make them not buy out of Europe to actually bring it stronger into them. We are now actually being hit with all sorts of tariffs from our supply chain to even just try and do paperwork to get the goods into us, because nobody understands what all the rulings are. Nobody understands how to move anything. There's no containers available within the whole world. So all of a sudden, shipping has just gone ridiculous. Before October, I was trying to bring a large stock amount in, because we just don't know what was going to happen because of Brexit. We didn't know what was going to happen because of lockdowns. So it was one of those things, let's plan ahead. And a normal goods movement for us is probably about 2K. We were being quoted anything between 8 and 15K for a movement. Yeah. So we actually had to make some real big decisions and go, hey, let's just sit back a little bit. We can't, when you don't know what your order book's going to look like, because we were all walking into, were we going to have another extended lockdown? Do we end up with so much supply here of stock with actually no sales that we bankrupt ourselves before we even get down that road? What do we do? So we had to make some very big decisions. And actually, I only managed to get that stock order in at the end of January. I couldn't get any shipping line to move it for me, and I've got a 20-year background in international logistics, and I know quite a few people, and I had to call in some favors. Absolutely had to call in some favors to just get that into the country. It's been horrific.
It does sound horrific. That's exactly the word, Sandra, and my heart goes out to you. We need to, we could talk forever, but we need to crack on because we've got more topics to cover. So can I ask for the last, third and final poll question, please? So change of tack slightly, but do you feel that the impact of lockdowns on manufacturing have been fairly reported by the media? I won't say any more for fear of leading the witness. I have my views on this, and I know our panelists do. So please let us know your thoughts on that, and then we'll go back to the panel. Okay, well, certainly no yeses. That's that's in accordance with our views, I should say. Okay, let's go to the panel, and I'll start with Richard this time, please. How do you feel that manufacturing has been represented by the media and politicians, indeed, over the period of the crisis?
Well, first of all, I think generally manufacturing is poorly understood anyway. And in a way, it's reasonably ignored in the sense that it just doesn't hit the headlines that much by both media and politicians. Over the whole issue of COVID, I think it's been a fairly quiet issue about manufacturing because, frankly, the issue of manufacturing in the British economy does not at the moment have a very high level of interest. The issue is much more to do with hairdressing, nail bars that are closed, pubs, restaurants, etc. That was the issue. Our economy, unfortunately, is seen as a consumer economy. We have a situation where, to a large extent, our economy is based on consumption and debt rather than production and savings. So manufacturing really doesn't come out and shine in that. But having said that, I think part of it is ingrained in the sense that education and schools don't really get involved in manufacturing as much now as they used to, for a lot of reasons. That goes on to the fact that there is less influence in terms of what young people want to do, etc. The issue, I think, is something manufacturers have to do something about. We've really got to change the culture of manufacturing and join, if you like, the celebrity world. And I think it's in the manufacturer's own hands to raise the profile. But I don't think we've been badly treated during COVID. It's just that we've been ignored.
Thank you, Richard. All very good points. Sandra, do you have any further views to add on the topic?
Well, I actually echo all of Richard's comments, including the most important one, that manufacturing actually needs to get off its backside and get out there and go, look at us, look what we do, look what we bring, look what we support. Let's get involved and change it. That was a personal agenda of mine a few years ago when we were recruiting, and everybody that was coming through our door was so flat because they thought that because they were coming for a job on a shop floor, that they had absolutely no value to this world. And that's ingrained from schools, from us as parents. You know, the usual words of, my God, if you don't get your exams, you're going to end up in a factory or you're going to end up working in McDonald's. For Christ's sake, what's wrong with working in all those places if that's what makes you happy, if that's what makes you pay your bills and that's what delivers the results for your family? Manufacturing is a great place to work. It's not a dirty environment. There is lots to give, lots of opportunities, but it's the perception of what manufacturing is. And as part of wanting to actually make a change in that, I became an EA for the LEP. So I actually work in a school in Leicester where I'm very proud to say that when I first started working with them, they didn't know what manufacturing was. They didn't know what industry was. They thought the only route to a sustainable, valued member of society was to actually have a piece of paper to your name, 1,000,001 exams, gone through the education system. There is lots of different ways to actually give value back to this world, and manufacturing is a great one. And actually, and going back to the original point of, do I think that we've been portrayed well? I could go on about the textile issues within Leicester, but obviously we don't need to say any more on that. That was unfairly represented. Yes, there is many issues that they're already aware of and already dealing with. So, but it was unfairly represented and left a stigma around that industry, which I actually think was very, very unfair. I actually think it was really unfair that I was actually having to, you know, coax my guys into work because they thought, you know, because of all the media attention was, don't go to work, don't do this, don't do that. Yeah, you have to work from home. You tell me how we can actually get our guys when working machinery or moving big pieces of steel around. How does that work in a home environment? So actually, we've been penalised in many ways to deliver all the HR, the H&S, to make us all run appropriately. You know, don't get me wrong, my guys are great. I love them to pieces and they've worked bloody hard, but they've had to go against many of their own family issues, let's just say, to go, do I come to work or do I not? And the pressure that's been put on those guys, I actually think was really unfair.
Thank you. Great point, Sandra. Can I ask you, with your one of your many hats on, you're also a regional representative for Make UK, aren't you? The manufacturers organisation. What sort of initiatives have they got in place to maybe improve and boost the profile of manufacturing? And just whilst you think of that, I just want to say that on the news yesterday, I can't remember the specific initiative, but the Prime Minister was going on about investment in technology, and what they were showing looked like manufacturing to me. And are they just afraid to use the word manufacturing? Technology is fine, it's sexy, manufacturing less so? I don't know.
Okay, so let me talk from my two hats. So obviously part of Make UK, again, a part of don't like it, get involved, change it. And I'm also part of the LEPS MIT REAP board that was been on a year's program to actually be part of the region, to write the regional economy, the regional strategy. That is all. I am so excited to see that is all based around manufacturing. That is all based around, let's make some goods here. This is not just about, you know, Richard's talked on it several times there, about every other government across the world is trying to put their economy back in together. We have so much pressure put on us, I think, within manufacturing about we need to be exporting, we need to be doing this, we need to be doing that. It's actually in our own hands to be supporting each other locally and having more of that collaborative working together instead of working against each other all of the time. One of my biggest frustrations of 2020 was getting some of that reshoring work that I wanted across the line, but I couldn't do it because everybody was so distracted with what the hell does the world of business look like going forward? And actually, what's this Brexit thing? We're being told to be prepared for Brexit. We're all sitting there on the edge of our seats, but we don't know what the hell we're being prepared for. So when you ask the first question, I can't answer that honestly, because I think the shit is yet to come, quite bluntly. We have got some hell of some months to come through, not just COVID, but also Brexit, all the knock-on effects of this. And Make UK has some amazing initiatives. The LEP have got some amazing initiatives. But again, I will go back to Richard's point. We have to get off our arses and actually go out there and meet it halfway. Not just sit there talking about it. Let's actually get out there and do something about it.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sandra. We need to crack on because I'm keeping an eye on the clock and we've got another question to cover. So Kamal, any other comments on treatment in the media?
Well, I mean, I echo again, I agree with Richard when he says that we've not been treated badly. It's just that we've been ignored. And one of the classic situations when come March last year, there was rate relief for all the caterers and the restaurant business rate relief, right? And when I applied for it, I didn't get it. And I says, well, I'm directly supplying, I'm the first line supply line to all these caterers and hospitality trade. So why haven't you given it to me? Because they told me, because you're not frontliner. You're not frontline. You don't have a shop. You don't have a retail outlet. But yet you had these situations when you've got the likes of the big supermarkets taking their rate relief, enjoying it. And then just back, I think it was last month or something, they said we're giving back X million pounds. But the point was they took it, but they wouldn't give manufacturers that relief. And that is what I mean by being ignored, not being treated badly. And the council themselves, they were actually going by the book, so there's nothing to argue about on that score. And yeah. The other point that Sandra has made, and I think what we are missing out is that our brand, and I mean our brand, I mean Made in UK brand, is a very, very strong brand. Yeah, and Richard will know that when it goes to the Middle East and all the other parts of the world, when we got Made in UK written on it, it had some weight on it, and yeah. that's sort of a marketing ploy that we have not exploited as UK PLC, and we need to do that in a big way to get our manufacturing up.
100%. So the last question then, before we open up and take the audience questions, and it's a wide topic. I'm going to go to you first, Richard. How do you see the future? How do you see manufacturing developing?
Well, actually, I'm reasonably optimistic. I think one of the big issues is the way in which technology, digitization is going to come in. One of the things that will force is increased training, a lot of additional development of skills, because with the technology, people have got to have those skills to actually work it. And as a result of that, I think there will be a much better environment in which people will be working in manufacturing. I mean, for a start, the environment that people work in factories now is a million miles away from how it was a few decades ago. And you see that everywhere in terms of, you look at modern factories, they are actually quite comfortable environments to work in many respects. And a lot of the heavy industries, of course, have gone. Also, what it means is, with technology, is that people have to work together in a different way. And I think there is a lot more human interaction, which is becoming more sophisticated. You've got, in the past, you had lots of competition between people in different parts of a business, in terms of the sales people against the manufacturing people, the works people were complaining about the warehouse people. I think now, and as it will develop, there's much more collaboration rather than competition, and that achieves things much better. And I think because of that, it becomes something that's attractive. And one of the things that I noticed, I picked up just the other day, I saw that UCAS was suggesting or saying that the number of young people actually interested in engineering courses at universities is growing faster now than it has done for many years. And I think if we can get young people into the manufacturing environment, they'll give it a good kickstart and keep going. And anything which helps in terms of that, especially apprenticeships, but apprenticeships have had a checkered history, frankly. But one of the things that is important is that apprenticeships take that leap between people with practical skills getting into an environment that is both technological as well as practical, and can be fairly intellectual as well. So I'm fairly optimistic, and I think also because of Brexit, we will have the initiative and the opportunity to make more things here rather than importing them. Why not?
Superb. Thank you, Richard. Sorry to cut across you there, but it's 12:42. Sandra, I'm going to save you for the big finish. Kamal, how do you see things developing in the food manufacturing sector?
It's interesting what Richard has said, because I think Brexit might be a barrier, because what's actually happening, we all know we have a skills shortage in the UK. Yeah, and then recruitment from Europe is going to be a problem with this new point system. The point systems allow us from medium to high management skills to be recruited, but below that point system, you're going to have a problem. So you're talking about unskilled labor. So to have a manufacturing section, we need to have a certain level of these unskilled labor, and there will be a shortage. Now, what will cause the problem now is that because there's going to be a shortage, wage rates are going to go high, and then you'll come to the situation and say, hey, why do I want to manufacture in the UK? Why can't I take it abroad and we'll bring it in? Yeah, but we'll leave our brains in the UK, but we'll do the manufacturing out there, and that is a potential possibility. I mean, only time will tell whether it would be right or wrong, but it is a potential problem, and people need to address that.
And you've also got the challenge of plastic and recycling, climate change.
Recycling. I mean, we've got this. I think it's April 2021. The plastic tax comes in, very similar to the sugar tax that they put into drinks. Yeah, and we've got all that, and that's going to be a big challenge, because recycling. I mean, at the moment, COVID's taking the front page, and all these recyclings and all the issues that we're talking about, skill shortages, they've all been just ignored. I'm hoping that as soon as this COVID issue is finished, that all this will come in the forefront, and we can start actually addressing the nation's issues, especially skills issues. That is we have a shortage, and that it needs to be addressed. And what Richard says, if there's a big intake from the universities, from the young ones that are coming in, that's good news. But we need to see it happening, and we also need to see it that they don't come in and then suddenly go abroad because they're getting treated better or whatever. Yeah. So the retention is going to be important.
Thank you very much, Kamal. And Sandra, 2 minutes on the future of manufacturing before we go to the audience questions, please.
The future is what we make it, quite simply. But I just want to go back to Kamal's comment there regarding the skills shortage, because I do have obviously various opinions on that, because I often wonder if it's a skills shortage or a communication shortage, communication gap. And again, that's about industry having to meet schools, but schools also got to come out and meet industry. And we've got to start, not that we want to be in each other's pockets, but we've got to understand each other's issues. And for schools to actually to be able to change how they work, that has to be driven down from government. They are having to tick so many boxes themselves. And I see that because of the work that I do as an EA. They are having to tick so many boxes to deliver all these benchmarks that actually the things that these kids need to be understanding that's actually translatable into the world of work needs to change. And we need to go back probably even a little bit to basics, to let's get these can-do attitudes back out there. Let's get some kind of excitement. The kids have had everyone's going about the panic about the exams of this last year, and I'm looking at this from a real positive point of view, going, those kids that go out there and make something for themselves that didn't quite get the exams that they should have probably have got because of the way the system's gone this year, they're the kids I want to be talking to. They're the kids I want in my workforce, because they are the ones that are going to make things happen, because they're used to it. They are not of a point of it going, I've had to deliver myself in this way, or I've got this exam, I've got that exam. They've had to work bloody hard to get where they are. They're the kids I want, the resilient kids. That's where I want to be going further. We keep hearing about this snowflake society. Christ, we all had to work hard. We don't get nothing by not working for it. Let's get back to some core values of nothing's given, get off our arses, go out there and do it.
Keep calm and carry on.
I don't know about the calm bit. I never do calm. No, calm's not my nature.
No, brilliant, passionate words and heartfelt, and you know, they've hit the mark. Thank you. So I'll go to the audience questions now. The first one's actually a comment rather than the question, but it's well worth saying, and thanks for your contribution, Peter Small. Richard, you are so right about the lack of a close link between education and manufacturing, but go see JJ Churchill in Market Bosworth to see what close relationships can do. So it would seem that something positive is happening there. And you've also had messages of support from Anju Trivedi, MBE. Well said, Sandra. We're working together, not against each other, to improve and support manufacturing locally. Right, a question for Richard in particular. Richard, although I think it can apply to all three of you actually, because it says, as an importer, would it be a help to manage cash, etc., if you had stock housed within the boundary of a free port? Because we all know, hopefully, that we do have a bid in for a free port around East Midlands Airport, and we should be hearing hopefully a positive news on that next week.
Yeah, we actually use a free port in our Dubai operation, where we ship products from the UK into the warehouse, and it is a free port there, near Abu Jaliab, yeah, and it goes from there further east mostly. Yes, is the simple answer. However, it's all to do with the actual movement and logistics. If it means actually having to move production to a free port so you can actually do it there, it does complicate things. So simply putting raw materials in one place, it's an extra movement and it's just a financial cost. It may well be worth doing, I just don't know. It depends what the balance between the cost of additional handling and the saving in duties.
Sandra, Kamal, anything to add? If we've got a couple more questions and 5 minutes or so to go.
I mean, the use of free port is just like you're just delaying your levies. So unless you've got your volume, you can put them in the free port and then just call off as and when you want it, and then just play the levies and taxation accordingly. But like Richard said, it all depends on the type of business that you're doing. You know, if you're exporting, you can bring it in without any levies and manufacture in the free port and then re-export. Yes, it'll be good, but it's all depending on your business.
I was going to say, I agree with that. For us, we don't export currently, we only import. And as I feel that we're a little player in all of this, it currently wouldn't help us because of the goods that we bring in anyway. But ask me in 10 years and I'll answer that.
Okay, thank you. Right, a question about all the changes that you've made over the past year or so to adapt. Which of those are temporary and which are here to stay? And I'm thinking that as I'm sitting here in a bedroom at home and on a webinar 12 months ago, if this event would have been held in a room somewhere in Leicester and would all be having a drink and a sandwich, and it would all be very pleasant. But we've all become ninjas on Zoom and Teams and GoToWebinar today. So which of the changes are here to stay and which are just temporary? Anyone like to kick off?
Okay, I think the ones that are going to be more permanent is this video conferencing and Teams and Zooms. Yeah, we can have conversations now instead of driving down to wherever you have to drive to see somebody. I think the initial meeting will be there. You have to drive down. And once you get to see the person, then you can start doing everything on video conferences. The changes in the workplace down, in our production workplace at the moment, we're like COVID safe. Whether they'll be relaxing or not will depend on how this pandemic spans out. And whether we have to keep them in place or not, I don't know at this stage. But I think the changes are going to be like now we're doing this conferences. But I personally, I would love to have this in a meeting room with everybody there. We could see people. But,
amen to that.
Yeah.
Sandra, Richard?
I don't think we can say whether right now of how we see what the workplace is, specifically within manufacturing, specifically within a set environment, how that will change, whether that will be relaxed. I know that we've done amazing to actually keep our spirits in a really good place with the restrictions and still increase productivity. You know, that's been one thing that I got to say really well to our guys, that when the work comes in, you know, we actually increased our GP. What we lost in our turnover, we increased it with our GP. So we work more productively. How I see video conferencing staying, I actually quite enjoy parts of it. I'm actually, if I'm really honest, never thought I'd enjoy a little bit of remote working myself. I feel very privileged to be able to do that. But on the other side, I have a hubby at home that's on furlough that hasn't worked in the last year, who's desperate to get back into work environment. And some of the people that I know that have not been in a work environment, I think that is going to be the next challenge that we have going forward regarding people's emotional and mental health, to actually get back into that kind of environment. That I see as a real challenge going forward.
Thank you, Sandra. And that does lead into another comment which Richard might like to comment on, about maintaining motivation and staff performance for when people are working from home.
Yeah, I mean, for us, there's two things that stand out. One is the people issue, because you having to split people up, in effect, having some at home, some in the factory, within the factory, different shifts, not meeting each other, having bubbles so they keep together, they don't make contact, etc., etc. What we've done is introduced a communication system within the company where we actually work much harder at telling everybody what's going on and ensuring that there is a response to that, giving people the opportunity to have their say in lots of different areas, so that actually the place bubbles even though people aren't together. You've got some at home, some in the factory, etc. So it's this getting communication right across the piece in terms of people. You can motivate them then. You can also ensure that any slight difficulty or problem does not grow. You catch it quickly, you can do something about it. So within the organization, I think we're going to be a better company as a result of this, because of the things that we have introduced in that working environment. Commercially, I think what's happened to a large extent is we've looked at our supply chain and realized that there is a lot of opportunity for having an easier way in which we can distribute products overseas, so that you have central distributors, if you like, who are serving countries, better than trying to do it from here. At the same time, we have found, because of COVID and the interruptions in supply and also Brexit, honesty with customers actually works. So you actually tell them, no, we cannot do it, but let us work together. So we have got a lot closer to a number of our customers during the last 18 months, which is encouraging.
You're absolutely right. It's a fantastic, perhaps unexpected side effect, but a testament to human nature, and particularly I think in the British DNA, is how we respond and adapt and you could say necessity is the mother of invention, but it's forced us to find new ways of doing things, and the new ways are sometimes better than the old ways. So, that as I say, that's a pleasant and a beneficial side effect from all the bad stuff and the nasty stuff that's gone on, because we all know people that have struggled over the past 12 months. So thank you so much for that. And I'm going to bring things to a close now, just really by thank you again so much for all the fantastic, well, the time you've given first and foremost, but the fantastic insights that you've shared. You've all had different journeys over the past 12 months. You've all had different experiences. You've all reacted differently, but it's so generous of you to give of your time and your knowledge and your experience to share with our audience today. And the event has been recorded, so others will be able to view it from our website once it's posted later today. Neil, do you have anything to add before closing remarks?
No, I think it has been fascinating, actually. And as usual, it's the human stuff, as you were saying, which makes a difference. Richard, I mean, if you can keep that going in your factory, that will be an exemplar, I think, which we can all look at how, because mushroom farming was the way people managed in the days when I was a junior, certainly in the dark, and shovel the door, open the door and throw in some manure from time to time. It's mushroom farming. So obviously your system is, well, it's hugely encouraging to hear, isn't it? And the other thing I did say is maybe there ought to be a subject called employability on the curriculum at schools and further education.
There is a section of it, Neil. There is a section in the school that I work in, and that's who I work with.
And mine too, where we're trying to make it as such, but there's certainly an area where it's like, okay, I've taught you history, now off you go. Whereas if we had employability actually taught as a contained area that all pupils should go through, that might be interesting and might be a link back to business as a whole. Anyway, I think it's
good points. Thanks again to the audience for joining. And before you leave, a couple of parish notices. First of all, our next event is on the 25th of March. It's a Thursday, where we're going to be joined regional agent for the Bank of England to share with us the view on the state of the economy. And Leicestershire Business Voice, we do what it says on the tin. We have a voice with the Mayor of Leicester, and we want to help him shape his views for creating a better future for Leicester in the wake of the pandemic and the lockdowns. So we invite our members to share their thoughts and perspectives on that by next Friday, so that we can take them forward to a meeting we have scheduled with him the following week. So yeah, that's manufacturing from three great business owners. Thanks again, and a couple of items there for Leicestershire Business Voice for your diary. And without further ado, I shall wish you all a good health and a good weekend. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.